Hey, Juberteers, welcome back to the show. My guest today is somebody who I think you're really going to like because not only does she enjoy painting by numbers, and she has her patio in her backyard, which is like her happy place, but she hates bananas. So we're not talking about bananas, none whatsoever. We won't even mention banana after I say banana one last time, Alexis. So we're going to go from there. Alexis, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I'm the operations manager at the Williamson County Regional Animal Shelter, which is located in Georgetown, Texas, just north of Austin, Texas. I've been there for 15 years now, officially, as of a couple of weeks ago. We kind of have a joke that I've had every position at the shelter except for the director at this point, because my journey to my current role has been all over the place, kind of, but within the shelter. And I've probably worked in animal welfare since I was 18. So about 20, gosh, I don't want to do the math, but a long time. And a very, very long time. And kind of some interesting different places that I worked before I got to the shelter. But the shelter has proven to be, like, honestly, the true place that I belong and I'm passionate about. So
That's awesome to be able to have that, right? To enjoy what you're doing. I mean, for 15 years is a long time to be with any organization, but I'm glad you found your people, right? You found the organization and it inspires you every day, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, definitely. I honestly, helping animals, it's that. But for me, especially now in my current role as a leader, I actually focus on my staff. And that's kind of my purpose in my current role, right? Is making sure the staff are cared for and happy and taking care of themselves. Yes, I obviously care about animals very, very much. I wouldn't be there. But if your staff is happy and they're doing well and you have a great culture, the animals will be taken care of because the staff will be taking care of themselves and be in the right place of mind to take care of the animals properly.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that because one of my personal pet peeves, right? Not that this is about Chris's pet peeves, is when people say, "Oh, I'm in animal welfare because I love animals and I hate people." And I always say, "You're in the wrong line of work because people
Yeah.
and animals, that combination, and it's such a tight bond. We know about the human animal bond. And if you don't like people, then you kind of need to be in something else."
Right. You need people to make impact and to really um help animals, even cases that, might make you upset or mad. We recently so I manage one of the teams I manage is we call services. They do intake, adoptions, kind of our front desk team. And inside their Teams chat, which I'm just in there kind of in case they need me, but they were talking about an elderly couple who had 25 cats in an RV, most of which were unaltered, and they needed to rehome them, bring them to us. And the staff was being great, and they were doing our normal process, which is we only allow them to bring like three animals at a time. There's fees involved, and the base fee is $150 per pet. So you imagine that would be very expensive. And so I kind of saw this. I contacted their supervisor, who's also in the chat, and kind of said, let's please try to expedite because these people need help just like the cats need help. 25 cats in probably any space is a lot for anyone to manage, especially with them being unaltered. 25 will turn into 50 real quick. And we weren't sure how socialized these cats were going to be. We've been lucky, but we expedited. Instead of having them have to wait for a typical surrender, we got with our medical team, expedited them to bring 10 to 15 last Tuesday so that they could have their spay neuter surgery the next day. We took the surrender fee down to the base, which is, it starts at $150, and then they get discounts off of that. Like if they provide us vet records, if the animal's already spayed and neutered. So there's different discounts. We just let them have all the discounts, even though they weren't providing those things. So it makes the surrender fee $25, and we let them pay as they can. It would impact the shelter more if they had even more cats later.
Yeah.
Their quality of life is probably, I'm guessing, not the greatest if they're in an RV with 25 cats. So it's looking at the customer not as the enemy, but as a partnership to help make sure these cats get taken care of. And I think they brought us 15 cats on Tuesday last week, and they were all adopted by Friday. So
Wow.
our cats fly off the shelves here.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I was
So
I mean, what is the state of animal welfare like where you are, right? What's the community like? I mean, I don't have any perspective.
it's tough. I mean, it's at the Texas shelter. Most of our county is rural. We obviously are next to Austin, so we have Round Rock and some other areas that are a city, but a majority is rural county area. So we have a lot. We get a lot. We have a lot of dogs. Our cats, I'm not even sure why, I'm be honest. Probably about 2018, 2019, when we opened our new adoption building, which did expand and make our cat area much nicer. So maybe that was part of it. But cats, we really hardly ever have a problem with anymore. Well, we can have 200-300 cats in our shelter and adequately house that. We prefer to have half of that because then they can have the double kennels and stuff. But if we do get too many, and we are generally really good about getting cats adopted pretty quickly. But dogs is tough. All the shelters around here, like most Southern shelters, are at capacity or more. We're over capacity pretty much constantly. And it is tough, but we really try to focus on adoption at our shelter. I know a lot of shelters nationwide suffered kind of a drop in adoption rates after COVID. We did not.
Oh.
We saw no drops. And I think it was because we're so big on customer service and we're so big on community and involving them. Looking at us saving the animals as a community effort, you can't just do it by yourself in the shelter. So we did all kinds of things like, what was it? Sleepovers. We'll do not actual sleepovers, but we did a pajama party. So we would be open super late during the summertime to give people who maybe can't get in there till 7 p.m. more times to come in. We're just so community focused. Our community steps up for us all the time. We recently had floods in July. We had the floods we were already over capacity and needed to take in 2 different shelters' entire populations into our shelter.
Oh, wow.
I believe we took in over 150 animals in one day because these shelters, one was a neighboring shelter, they were mandatory evacuation. The other shelter, we partner with a few shelters in Texas as sister shelters through Best Friends. So we had to take in, like I said, 2 shelters with animals, and we put out a plea to the community that was like, stay safe, don't drive in a flood, but we need help. And we would have literally cats coming in from the shelter, getting the intake process and going immediately back out to foster. Our shelter population, I think, so our capacity is about 120, 115 for dogs, depending on their size. And then for cats, it's about 150. So is ideal capacity.
Sure.
We ended up, because so many community members showed up to foster temporarily for this flood, that we actually ended up with less than 100 dogs at our shelter. We partner with Bissell, we partner with everybody, right?
Yeah.
And so we kind of put out the call to those partnerships, and Bissell was a huge help for us. They got other shelters to bring staff to us to help us with cleaning and taking care of the animals. And of course, that influx of animals, there's crates needing to be cleaned, and because you're trying to triage, correct? So the community is a big part of the success of our shelter. And it kind of goes back to, you can't do it without people, the right people working for you, the right people working around you, volunteers and fosters, and like I said, the community. It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you know, every organization across the country, we're all focused on saving animals, but the communities are different and the needs are different and the programs and all these other things are different
Right.
in each community. So it is important to have a good relationship with your community. And as you mentioned, to be able to, call on them when you've got a situation, right? And getting
Mhm.
fosters. I'm curious, Alexis. I mean, as one of the leaders, and you've been there a long time. I mean, how do you motivate your team in this often really difficult industry? Because not every day is a good
Right.
day. It's you get compassion fatigue, and
Right.
sometimes you just get sad situations. I mean, how do you keep your team motivated?
Yeah. So it can be really hard, but I think making sure that on a regular day to day, they know that they have your support and they have the support of their leadership at every juncture, right? So we have like animal care staff, then they have seniors, which are kind of like on-site leads, and they have a supervisor, but making sure that they're getting the support they need at every one of those levels. And I'm very open. I know a lot of people go like open door policy, but I personally, every single day, at least once, I try to do it 2 to 3 times a day. I walk through the entire shelter. I not only am I looking at every animal, but I am greeting and talking to every staff member and asking them how they're doing, checking up in them. Because if they're not happy or they're having a hard time, it affects the whole entire team. So, motivating them, just being involved. And honestly, I think as a leader, I think where some people kind of fall or have a hard time is being genuine. And I know that's hard because there's the thought that like I'm the leader, right? I'm supposed to like not not be nice, but like we can't be friends, we can't be friendly. And that's not the approach that I take. I ask people how they're doing and I like genuinely want to know like how are you doing? So I think they know that all like, and I don't hire other supervisors and leaders that aren't the same. For me, I really look, especially in any kind of leadership role, even a senior is just like a senior staff member. I look at soft skills a lot. You could train technical skills, but I want staff to have strong soft skills. But just making sure they have the support, being there when they need you. And I mean, I've had people, you can tell if somebody is not doing or acting the way they usually do, you can tell they're struggling with something. And so if they are, I'll talk to them and be like, hey, I notice you're not performing the same way that you usually do. I've also noticed that you haven't taken vacation anytime soon. I want to say we're probably one of the rarest places because I will like be annoying to tell you to take time off. We don't want people working themselves to the bone. Honestly, it's something that I did when I started at the shelter and probably didn't take a vacation for the first 3 or more years. We had a lot less staff than we do now, so much smaller team. And I mean, I worked probably easily 12 hours a day when I was first there because I started as part-time animal care person. So I started at the entry level position but there was a need. And I'm that person that like someone needs to stay and make sure all the cats get their meds, right? And I would just clock out and I would stay there and do that. So I was that person. So maybe it's easier for me to kind of talk to them and say, like, hey, I know you feel like you need to be here every single day because we can't function without you, but I'd rather have you here at 100% than have you here stressed out, burnt out, compassion fatigue, like all that stuff. And because people start treating their coworkers not nice sometimes. I've seen people take frustrations out on animals. I mean, I have had to take the leash from someone and be like, go take a break.
Take a break. Step.
So I think and I hope that them knowing that the leaders at the shelter do genuinely care about their well-being as human beings. And I understand that everyone's different and everyone is an individual. I think just being genuine with that goes a long way. I have recently asked, I'm in a panel of other shelters in our area. I'm on the subcommittee for for mental health and workplace culture. And that is something that comes up. They'll say, we came up with these systems and these ways that we can, they collect points and then they get a free day off and like all this stuff. And you can create all the systems and little things like that you can, but if it's not coming from, if they don't feel the warmth in that, like that you actually care, because that was her question. She created this thing where their staff, if they get a few, attaboys from their coworkers, they get a free day off, which, hey, that sounds great, right?
Yeah.
But she was like, how do you get people to actually do it? And I said, because like her delivery to us as a group was so sterile and so like it just, I'm like, well, if that was their delivery, it doesn't seem like you really care about it. I didn't say it like that, obviously, but they have to know that you actually care and that you are actually trying to make things better for them. And I think that's the only way to get buy-in is, like I said, being genuine and actually caring. Does it sometimes hinder me as a manager? I will say there have been times maybe I gave somebody too many chances, because if people are, getting reprimanded for something and they're telling me, oh, I'm trying. Like I want to believe them and I want to give them that opportunity to correct the issue. But I will say I'm probably, because I want to see the best in people. Maybe I'm too optimistic, right? So I have a few times that people in my head where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have given them that one more chance, but I'd rather it be that way than the other way,
No, I like that. I like that style. Like you said, I'm the same way, right? I care for people, and if people seem like they're trying, you might give them one too many chances, right? But I still believe in the best in people. I'm a glasses half full kind of guy, so I always believe that people really genuinely are trying. You mentioned obviously you've been in that particular organization for 15 years, but you started, back when you were 18. Was there a particular animal situation? What caused you to want to go into animal welfare as a career?
So that was never anything that was ever in my mind, like as growing up or anything like that. I always had an affinity for animals. So even when I was younger, this sounds so ridiculous, but we had a lovebird that didn't get along with our other bird. It was the whole thing. So I decided I was going to tame this lovebird that bit me all the time, and I was the one who's like training their dogs in the front yard. Like I was that kid and bringing home random cats and kittens. I was that girl. And back then I thought I wanted to be a vet, I want to be a veterinarian, right? I love animals. And as I became older, also a pop star. I mean, but also, but and at one point I had this dream of like, I'm gonna save all the dogs. I'm gonna go to the shelter. When I learned that they euthanize, because back then they did a lot more. I was like, I'm just gonna once a week go to the shelter and pick up every dog that's gonna be euthanized, and they're just gonna live with me on my ranch forever. Like I had no idea what that was, but that was what I was gonna do. Was a vet, and it was like that. Obviously no thought into how I would afford to do something like that, but I was a kid. I ended up, my first job was at Target. My dad actually was a contractor, so I worked with him from the age of 12 up. A friend of mine worked at a zoo, petting zoo in Orlando on International Drive, which is right near like Universal Studios and stuff. And I went there to visit him and check the place out. And I wasn't going there for a job, but as I was walking around and I spoke to the manager, they offered me a job. So I was like, cool. And at that time, I actually also had a job offer working customer service, like on the phone through a corporate credit card company. And I hadn't, it was for way more money. I think it was like $7 an hour to work at the zoo and way more to work at this call center. But I was 18 and I was like, I don't want to be miserable. And so I made the choice then to work at the zoo, which was also an hour from my house. It wasn't like, it was all the things people would say, like, why did you choose to work there? But I was like, I'm going to literally be working with horses. They had camel, we had alligators. Like it was pretty fun. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, I'm 18. I'm in community college. I don't really know what I want to do with my life. So I'm going to do this. It seems fun. And I loved it. We would get kids from schools to come in and we would do tours and I had to talk about the animals. I loved that so much. That was my favorite. I always thought, a lot of people didn't want to do it. And then when there was a drama, but that place closed down, they also owned a vet clinic and they asked me to please come to the vet clinic. I'm assuming they noticed something in me, I'm assuming. And I worked my way up in the vet clinic. I ended up having basically all jobs there eventually. Like I said, I get bored really quickly because of the ADHD. So I think what the shelter gives me is like, you never know what's going to come in. It's not like every day is the same. I could not work at a job like that. And at the vet clinic, I got a taste of that because I would come in and sometimes I was a vet tech and sometimes I was the front desk and sometimes I clean kennels because I was so willing to jump in and help anywhere. And I was trained on how to do all the things. So from there, I went to work for the USDA. I worked at the National Detector Dog Training Center that said, well, now it's in Noonan, Georgia, but it was in Orlando, attached to the international airport there. I did that for a long time. 4 or 5 years. I love that job and ended up moving to California and then ended up getting to Texas. I worked at Austin Pets Alive for about 6 months. That was, again, a job that was like an hour away from my house through Austin traffic. And when I got the opportunity to come to Wilco, I took it. Even though it was just part-time, I was like, it's way closer to my house.
Nice.
But
Love that.
it was not something I ever set out to do. And I would even argue that the first 4 or 5 years, it wasn't like I was like, this is animal welfare and this is what I want to do. I just enjoyed my job at the shelter. And I say move around a bit in the shelter because, like I said, I get bored. I know that sounds so silly, but I do. If things become too repetitive for me, it's like, and I enjoy having as much information about processes and things as I can. So I just like to soak up all the knowledge. So,
Nice.
Yeah, I was at the animal care team. I basically worked on every team, essentially.
I think that's great. You've gotten to experience a lot of different things, which I'm sure that helps, as a leader because you do like, I've done your job. I've been there. I've done that.
Right. And they hate that sometimes.
Of course, right? Because she actually has done this before. But I think
Right.
Different perspective when you've done the job, you've been there, helps you to better understand what your staff is going through. So as we start to kind of draw to a close here, Alexis, I always like to end with a lightning round of just fun and simple questions.
Okay.
To learn a little bit more about you. So you ready?
Uh-huh.
All right. Do you prefer puppy breath or kitten purrs?
Kitten
Purrs.
purrs.
Okay. Are you an early bird or a late night owl?
I could probably go either way, but I pretty much always get up at 6. So maybe an early bird.
Yeah, I'm much more of an early bird. That's nice. What do you like to do after a hard day at the shelter to decompress?
So as mentioned before, I have my patio. So my patio had a big fan. There's a mister system that I installed. Like for me, fresh air and sunshine is very healing and restorative, like mentally. So I generally go out there, put some music on. Sometimes I do some kind of artwork. Sometimes I'm literally just hanging out there and just decompressing.
Cool. If you had one word to describe your staff at the shelter, what word would that be?
They're amazing. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to tear up. But for real, they're literally, it's like the best team of people that I could ever imagine working with.
That's nice. That makes it fun to come to work every day when you can really bond with your team, with your coworkers. And then my last question, Alexis, what do you want your legacy to be?
So this is something that the director, Misty, and I talk about a lot. I want to build leaders. I enjoy mentoring younger staff, and like I'll kind of see people on my team that are animal care specialists, and I'll recognize this person really has I can tell they have like a knack for this. And anyone who is interested in becoming leadership, maybe, I just love the idea of mentoring leaders and teaching. I love teaching. So what we talk about all the time is creating leaders within our shelter, but obviously that can expand to any shelters, animal welfare, that when I do retire and I leave Williamson County one day, that I have trained and mentored people to take my place that I can trust to run the organization and run the shelter in the same compassionate way that we do it. It's a goal that Missy and I talk about because we share the same goal is we want to build the right people up so that they can take our place when we leave, and we can just know that that shelter and animal welfare as a whole can just continue to be lifted up by that.
I love that. What a great legacy to leave behind. And I'm sure it's something that you're both very passionate about. And I want to say thank you, Alexis, for coming on the show. We didn't talk about bananas at all, right? So didn't have to worry about
No,
that.
thank goodness.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing about you and what your organization is doing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.